This is Aussie Mac Zone. We'll cover everything Apple, including Macs, iPhones, iPads, and more. All this from an Aussie perspective. Sit back, relax, insert yourself into the zone. The Aussie Mac Zone.
Hi everybody, welcome to show 199 Aussie Mac Zone. And don't forget, we are brought to you by athwebhosting.com.au. Affordable competitive plans, 99.95% uptime, domain registration, free setup, auto setup, and very good tech support too. And it's all from $5.95 per month when paid annually. So we've got Nick. How are you, Nick?
Good, thank you, Michael. How are you?
Very good, thank you. And we got Garth, my champion in Queensland.
G'day, Michael. How are you?
Good, man.
That's good. And Nick.
So we've got our first story. Apple Mac sales stagnant in Q2 of 2017 amid continuing worldwide PC market decline. Apple's Mac sales remained stagnant in the second quarter of 2017 compared to a year ago, according to new PC shipping estimates by Gartner. During the quarter, Apple shipped an estimated 4.24 million Macs, down from 4.26 in the second quarter of 2016, which is an estimated decline of 0.4. So while sales were down slightly, market share was up. Apple held 6.9% of the market during the quarter, up from 6.7% a year ago. And Apple is estimated to be the number 4 PC vendor in the world, edging out Asus, the company that held that position last year, obviously. HP and Dell, number 1 and number 3 worldwide PC vendors respectively, saw shipment growth in the quarter. HP shipped an estimate 12.7 million PCs for 10.8% of the market, which is 3.3% growth, while Dell shipped an estimated 9.6. Lenovo, once the number 1 worldwide PC vendor, is now in second place after their sales dropped to 12.2 million. So everyone will say Apple's doomed again because we only had stagnant sales.
I think, this is compared to this time last year.
Yeah.
And I think this time there was probably more expectation in the market that they would, well, maybe not actually get updates. Sort of leading up to WWDC,
Yeah.
they might actually see some updates this time around, and at least some buyers would have been holding off to find out what was going to be introduced there.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see next quarter, comparatively speaking, to the
see how much
that
we
quarter next time around.
stagnated then as well.
But as you say, it's the relative growth, improvement in the share market.
Yeah.
Say that again. Improvement in the number of Macs compared to other vendors anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, we're stagnant, but we went up. So, now, I haven't been able to find the exact place I heard this story. I think it was Marco Arman's podcast. I think it was. Anyway, at the beginning they were talking about the challenges of USB-C hubs. And because USB-C has got smarts in it, why they're awkward and there aren't really any around to do what you expect. That it's not a hub in the original, what we know as a hub for USB-C, a USB-A, for example, where you plug one in and then you've got 3 or 4 devices you can run off it at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's because of the smarts that are needed. So you can have your USB-C hub with, just say it had 2 outlets on it, but when you plug in a Thunderbolt 3 device, It's no longer a USB-C device, is it? Even though it's plugged into the same port. And what happens on your Mac is one of the processors says, "Oh, I'm a Thunderbolt now. I'm not USB-C at all." So, and that's why there are a couple of USB-C hubs
so many of your other
around.
Devices in there.
Yeah, it's just you plug something else in and it says, "Oh, now I'm a display adapter," or
Yeah.
It understands the differences, and that's why a couple of USB-C hubs that are out there don't even have the power pass through to your Mac, because they don't understand.
Okay,
now I'm just power. So, and that's why there's no $10 hubs.
That seems like a problem in the spec, doesn't it?
Well,
no. So can they do with a hub with smarts in it, processor of some kind or some intelligence to handle a situation? Can it do multi-port? In, can it do both Thunderbolt and USB-C at the same time?
None that I'm aware of, because you've plugged in a hub, and the port that you connect it to, it's going to turn one of them off. So say you have Thunderbolt in a 2-port hub, and you've got Thunderbolt in one and DisplayPort in the other. It's going to have to turn one off to work.
Yeah, I don't know. Surely, so a lot of these devices have pass-through, right? So you get your monitor, your Thunderbolt monitor, and it has passed through to USB-C or whatever. They certainly support daisy chaining of devices. The Thunderbolt stuff does.
The Thunderbolt stuff, yes.
So could you have a Thunderbolt hub? So this is a Thunderbolt device, but it then offers,
yes,
a USB-C port and a
yes,
display port and so forth.
Yes.
So the hub itself is a device that offers those other ports.
Yeah, but it's a Thunderbolt hub, not a USB-C hub, even though the connector's a USB-C connector.
I know. I'm just wondering if it can if it can then offer something else. You know?
Yeah, I think there's a Belkin one, and there's another one that's but they're like $300 US each.
Yeah, because they're basically a little computer of their own.
Yeah, because they're a Thunderbolt device, not a USB device.
Yes.
Yeah, so they've got to have lots of smarts inside them. And so if you've got the little MacBook that doesn't have Thunderbolt on the USB-C port, you can't use it.
So, oh dear.
So trying to get something that's even got 2 ports, you have a problem, because the 2-port devices don't do power pass-through, so you can't charge it. You can't end up with one device, except for the Apple dongle.
I've gone right off the idea of Thunderbolts of USB-C.
So if you're wondering, accidental
ATP?
podcast,
Accidental Tech
podcast,
Podcast,
yeah. I think it's at the beginning of 128 or 129. They put them out at such random times. That one, they're not necessarily weekly, from what I can gather.
It's pretty close to, I think, ATP.
Yep.
Yeah.
So here's an I thought it was really interesting. There's a new movie.
Well, we'll see, will we?
Yep. Baby Driver. It's a new movie, and it's cut in real time with Avid on an Apple 15-inch MacBook Pro. And the hit film Baby Driver was cut essentially in real time on set on a MacBook Pro, cutting way back on the need for expensive post-primary photography reshoots. In an account,
Let's reshirts as well.
Yeah. We've even got a picture under the story pic, I think. Yep. In an account published by the Beat film editor Paul Makeless, called Heist Film Baby Driver the most difficult edit and the hardest job that he'd ever worked on. Matchless set up a 15-inch Retina MacBook Pro from before the 2016 relaunch to do the job, actively on the set to help assist with the tight choreography needed to sync the action with the heavily music-oriented action film script. So he had this little trolley made that he'd take out on the road with him, which has got 2 displays and some stuff underneath it, plenty of power, and they just were filming, and a lot of it is music, getting the music to go with the film correctly. So just an interesting way that they've started to do it.
Yeah, I can't see it taking off.
I think a lot of it is because the guy that directs this, he really gets the music part of it as well. I saw him before I'd read this story, I saw the director being advertised on TV the other day. So, and it's to do with the music. And so they don't have to go back and reshoot it 2 days later. They were basically doing it on site. So,
okay,
good on them. It's one way of cutting back on costs as well.
Absolutely. Because they pour enough money into those films, don't they?
Yes,
At times, yeah.
So, proposed Australian law forces tech companies to decrypt customer messages. So, the Australian government on Friday proposed a new set of cyber security measures that would compel technology companies like Apple to provide law enforcement. Sorry, my screen just went crap. To provide law enforcement agencies access to encrypted customer messages. Currently, Australian law requires telephone companies aid in law enforcement operations by providing access to communications when obliged to do so via court order. And according to Prime Minister Turnbull, the new law places the same requirements on tech companies like Apple, Facebook and Google, which market messaging services with end-to-end encryption. New UK law, dubbed the Snoopers Charter, the Act furnishes government agencies wide latitude with which to eavesdrop on suspected criminals. Provisions of the Act allow UK agencies to carry out targeted and bulk data collection operations, equipment hacking, and data communications interception, decryption and more. Unlike the Australian law, however, the UK Investigatory Powers Act does not require foreign companies to decrypt communications or to participate in data collection procedures. And we have Australia's Attorney General George Brandis said he believes the new law can be implemented without building backdoors into encrypted platforms, a technique widely panned by service providers who the technique inherently weakens security. Apple, for instance, has long declined to build backdoors to iMessage, iCloud and its other network offerings, citing consumer privacy concerns. So what do we think, gentlemen?
Okay. So previously, right? Remember the whole big furor we had around the guy ages and ages ago?
Yep.
And that phone. So Apple had offered iCloud access, but they had stuffed it up, right?
Yeah.
And apparently they currently, they still do that. That's, if you've got an iCloud backup, they'll give access to to that account.
Yeah.
So is that still the case? I'm wondering, and I guess so. Can't see that they would have been able to back off on that. It was device access they were really saying no to.
Yeah.
So in this case with iMessages and iOS 11 / High Sierra, when all your iMessages will be stored in
the
iCloud.
cloud.
So in my iCloud backup will be all my messages.
Will they be encrypted?
They'll be encrypted, but if I can log into my account, and surely Apple can supply a login or into an account, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can reset the password, whatever, but they can provide login access to an iCloud account. So there's no backdoor there. There's no sort of breach of the privacy. It's allowing access to the account. So is that something they would do then, given these sort of rules? And is that a way they would be able to say, we haven't provided
A backdoor.
access to the device, we haven't put in a backdoor, but the account has had its password reset now, and law enforcement has the ability to access that iCloud account.
Quite possibly. Is
I know.
that the reason they're changing the whole process?
I hope not, but it just sort of struck me that, we have seen Apple provide iCloud access.
Yeah.
Given the right, given court order or whatever the circumstances.
The proper paperwork, yes.
The proper paperwork that, here's access to the backup that you need. Is it in there? No? Oh, well, we're not going to give you access to the actual phone itself.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. There might be ways. I've always sort of assumed that there's not, but maybe there are ways they can.
That's still current too, from what I believe, because I think I saw it just the last day or so, a story about US customs being able to access iCloud, but not access the phone still.
Yes, and I think that's the line they've drawn. In terms of the actual physical device.
Yeah.
But with more and more stuff being stored in your Dropbox account, in iCloud, in OneDrive, in whatever online storage place you choose.
Yep.
And you're allowing the vendor of that storage to provide the encryption.
Yep.
Then in most situations, there's very few of these services that are trust nobody, really,
That's right.
The vendors have the keys and can be compelled to provide access.
Yeah. So,
which is fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
Fine for me. But
assuming you're not a terrorist that I don't know about, or Nick, because he's a shady one, right?
He does seem a bit dodgy. He keeps very quiet over there.
Yeah. We don't really care because we don't have anything to hide. But the baddies, they'll just go and find a piece of encryption software that they want to use and just use it, won't they?
Absolutely. Download an app on their phone that they can send secure messages with, and
assuming
except
that
for
Apple
the age.
Sell it.
Sorry.
Assuming that Apple put it on the store.
Yeah, that
anyway.
would be a huge turnaround if they then went to cancel that kind of,
And the other quote for the baddies that are at that stage, I wouldn't have thought they would be using Apple phones anyway. I thought they'd be using throwaway devices.
Who knows? Sending text messages. That's how often do you find out in the end of the day they're actually not doing anything that smart anyway. They're just using open communications and
Yeah. And like the other story, this is particularly why we don't want backdoors in our iPhones. Is like that story that leaked this week about last week, the tax guy that sent out the details about how the tax department was looking at our phones, or could look at our phones, and here's the step-by-step guide of how to do it.
I missed that one.
Oh, no, Australian taxation went out on some website somewhere and it got taken down pretty quick, but this is how to look at people's phones. Here's the step-by. I don't know whether it included, the Israeli software or anything like that in the list, but it had the instructions on how to look at people's phones, look up data.
Okay. Interesting.
So, and that was an Australian taxation officer. So don't forget, people, I've got to promote that we've got our Aussie Tech Radio 24/7 podcast that's going all day, every day. Just great to listen to, updated weekly. We've got the Aussie Tech Security podcast, which is important to listen to because there is even more Mac malware floating around these days. And the award-winning, everybody, Aussie Tech Heads podcast. Voted by you, the listeners, Australia's best Aussie tech podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we've got their Aussie News channel on Apple News. So don't forget to go in there, do a search for Aussie Mac Zone and favourite us. So talking about messaging apps,
Yes.
this is important. Amazon working on mobile messaging service to rival Apple Messages. Amazon last week began querying customers over potential features they would like to include in a new mobile messaging platform called Anytime, which according to reports boasts text and video chat, voice calling, group tasks and social networking functionality. So it's very important that Apple get out there.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if Apple do. Okay, so HomePod.
Yep.
I'm still really keen to find out more about that in terms of the messaging service, because they mentioned that it does do messaging.
Mm-hmm.
And Amazon recently obviously released what is it, drop-in or whatever they call it with the Alexa devices.
Yep.
Where you still actually need a phone number, a mobile phone number to actually set up the service.
Yep.
Well, and you happen to live in the right country as well, of course, which we don't. But it's interesting. So many of these Facebook, they're really into the messaging thing, aren't they?
Yeah.
And messaging as a platform rather than just as a service to actually message.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing it to Apple, have you played with much more? Have you done much more since iOS 10 with your messages than you were before in terms of games or anything?
No, all I've done is sent more heartbeats, more balloons for happy birthday. The loud
Things like that.
Yeah.
Shouting or invisible ink or that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So you haven't
Yeah.
really used any of the apps to speak of?
No.
No, me
I
either.
don't get time to do any of that, man. I'm lucky enough to.
Well, see, the thing is, some of these apps are supposed to be able to save you time, aren't they? Like Dropbox has got an app in there, and lots of them do.
Don't use Dropbox. Once a week
Oh
I
my
use
God.
Dropbox to download something.
Who would that be from?
That's the only time I use it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very happy with iCloud. Even now, I did have to pay him $1, whatever it is, $1.99 a month now, to give me some more room, and that was it. Yeah.
Oh, geez, I had to go up to the next one. $4.95 or whatever it is.
But I'm quite happy to leave my stuff at home,
Local.
but all my pictures and all that sort of stuff.
I just love the convenience of iCloud Photo Library.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sort of got off the topic a bit here, but anyway, keep on going.
That's right. Yeah.
That's one thing I'm looking forward to with iOS 11, and that's the shared iCloud storage. Not currently working there, but because at the moment I'm having to pay for my wife's to a 50 gig plan and my own 200 gig, which is more than I need by a long shot.
Yeah.
So just to be able to go, one 200 gig plan for the whole family. I know my son's not able to back up half the time because he hasn't got enough space. He's only got the 5 gig, obviously.
Yeah. Yep.
And even my wifey on the 50 is getting warning messages saying she's out of storage, and I've just not wanted to start paying for 2 of those 200 gig plans. When I know in a minute, well, in September, we'll be able to just share
it
the
about.
one. Yeah. So that couldn't have come any sooner. Could have come sooner, I should say, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to think, there was something else to do with that too. No, I've forgotten now. I'm old.
Me too.
And Nick just laughs at us, right? Yeah, just sitting here.
Yeah. Silly old buggers.
And just a reminder, next week, number 200th episode. So please keep sending in some email questions. And I definitely have iTunes vouchers and some secret prizes. So even if you live overseas, please send in. Even if you just send in, here's my entry, that'll do fine. Just to
Put your name in the drawer, basically.
to Michael at AussieMacZone.com.au or Garth at AussieMacZone.com.au. Yeah. So
Easy as that.
now, here's a story that I got today that I actually hadn't heard of, and iOS 11 will expand iPhone's NFC capabilities beyond Apple Pay in several ways. So I hadn't realised that they were doing this. So Apple at WWDC 2017 introduced Core NFC, a new iOS 11 framework that enables apps to detect near-field communications tags. So similar to Apple Pay, iPhone users are prompted with a ready-to-scan dialog after holding the iPhone near a... sorry, I've got to learn to touch the thing in the right place. That brings the keyboard up and moves everything up the screen. So, sorry about that. After holding the iPhone near an item with an NFC tag, a check mark displays on the screen, and then an app with Core NFC could provide users with information about the product. Now, a customer shopping at a grocery store could hold the iPhone near a box of crackers and receive detailed information about their nutritional values or price history or recipe ideas. Or at a museum, a visitor could hold an iPhone near an exhibit to receive detailed information about it. Now, Core NFC will expand the iPhone's chip capabilities beyond simple Apple Pay in several ways. Cybersecurity company WiseKey, for example, today announced that its Capsule Smart Tag will now support iPhone thanks to Core NFC. So Capsule Smart Tags are primarily used for authentication, tracking and anti-counterfeiting on products like wine bottles. Never even knew about this.
No, I know.
And many other coffee companies offer similar solutions. So they just drop the NFC tag under the label or under the lid of the bottle. So, there it is.
It's crazy, isn't it? NFC tagging bottles of wine. I guess they can get pretty expensive, but still.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think I heard. I've been meaning to go back and watch that keynote. Not the keynote, but it was mentioned briefly in the keynote, I think. But watch the applicable sessions from WWDC to see what is going on here.
Yeah.
I heard reference to it on, maybe it was ATP again, Marco's podcast that he does with Casey Liss and Syracuse or whatever his name is.
John Syracuse, yeah.
John Syracuse, yeah. And having initially been quite excited about it, found that there were, once again, as you would expect with Apple, quite a lot of limitations. It wasn't free access sort of thing. So be
but we don't want it to be, do we?
Well, don't know. Not entirely, but it's just another sensor,
Yeah.
realistically.
But we don't want anything to go near the tokens. My Apple Pay tokens.
No, but they're not in the same place. I mean, the NFC chip itself is just reading that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just like saying it's just a camera or a microphone or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, how do you, as far as I can understand, it's another receiver. It's another input. It's an input device.
That's a simple way of saying it, yes.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what companies are able to do and what they're not able to do with it.
Yep.
In relative to what you could do with the same thing on an Android device. I would assume that whatever limitations are put in there, as I said, I've only heard a brief reference to them. I don't even know if they exist, but or how they are framed.
Yeah.
Will be in there for good reasons. But can't be interesting to see. Basically.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good. Any more stories that you can think of, my friend? I've got one how-to here, but
I'll tell you one little quick story that I might have told on the podcast before, but it's relevant to this conversation. Often, I used to keep my swipe card to get into work in my iPhone case, and hold it up against the swiper to get into work, and up would pop Apple Pay with use Touch ID to pay. And I'm like, no, you've got it wrong. You're supposed to pay me to come to work, not me you. So the sensor, the NFC reader at work used to try and used to invoke Apple Pay whenever I swiped into work.
I think that's excellent.
I know. I always thought I should just touch that thing and see what happens.
Just see what happens, yeah.
Yeah.
See all those, like the doors come down and lock you into place.
Suddenly I get the bill for all the labour costs that day or something.
Now, speaking of credit card issues, someone just in the very recent past, not me, I must admit, so they had a change credit card issue. So they were trying to change their debit card at Apple in the iTunes account or iCloud account, wherever you want to put it. And they couldn't remove their old card. And after being on the phone to Apple for like an hour, they couldn't remove the old card because there was a $3 outstanding purchase. But they couldn't add a new card, because they only had $2 on it, which was not enough to cover the outstanding.
Oh, jeez.
So they couldn't remove the old one or add a new one because it just didn't quite add up enough to keep Apple happy. So
did you get an Apple voucher thing?
All they did in the end was log on to the bank and transfer some more money into the card, I believe, and that let them do the thing. So yeah, if you're just trying to change your cards around, just make sure there's enough. But we're talking over an hour on the phone to work out that they couldn't remove it because there was an outstanding, and then they found out they couldn't add one because there wasn't enough to cover the outstanding.
That's too funny. That's just.
So yeah. So
I bet you felt like that was time well spent.
Oh yeah. but we learn something and we pass it on, don't we? That's
absolutely.
What we have to do. Yep.
Yep. Absolutely.
So thank you to our listeners and our sponsors and our supporters again this week for looking after us and putting up with us. And we're looking forward to number 200 next week. It's a big number. We should be proud.
It's a lot of them, mate. Jeez.
Yep. So, thank you very much, Nick.
No worries, Michael.
And Garth, thanks, mate.
Good on you, Michael, and thanks, Nick.